Hi there. Sorry I was taking care of some serious business. Speaking of serious business, please enjoy this clip from Mornings with Mike Winters, which, by the way, you can watch the show in its entirety at roswellstalkfm.com.
Joining us in studio this morning is Justin Ellis with Builders Do It Center. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are we doing this morning?
Doing great. And hey, Jeffrey, real quick, flip back to me. In case people haven't noticed, and I talked about this the other day, there's been this Yeti cooler just kind of hanging out in the corner here for those watching on the video stream. You can, if you're looking at it, say, hey, that's pretty cool. Because when I see Yeti coolers, I think of like the big, the ones
the
that
big
like,
hard-sided, put an elk in it coolers,
yeah.
absolutely.
He zoomed. Check that out.
Well, that's handy.
Not too much, not my forehead. Get down, there you go. So they've got other designs, and this is more like the totes, and this is the large tote right there, right?
Yeah, this is,
sorry.
This is the 40-quart Yeti hopper, which is Yeti's soft-side product. So
Okay.
if you don't have the room for the full hard-sided cooler, they give you the option to go into the hopper product, and it's really nice. Keeps ice just like the hard-sided, but takes up a whole lot less space.
Okay. So and they've got them at Builders Do It Center.
We've got them in all three sizes at Builders Do It Center.
Casually hanging out there, so go check those out. By the way, thank you also for the can koozie, which I will be using, which is great because it'll keep the drink super cold, but it's got strength in it. So if I've got someone out of line, I can chuck it.
Absolutely. They make fantastic projectiles. So built like iron.
Exactly. Good. Well, for folks that we've been talking about this, but in case you haven't heard, Justin here with Builders Do It Center is going to join us first Friday of every month at 8:15, and it's going to be, we're calling this like a do-it-yourself home improvement type segment, and each month Justin's going to have a different subject, and probably seasonal related. So like, certain months, we're talking warmer weather, maybe talking about barbecue stuff or your patios. As the colder months, talking, who knows, insulation or, things like that. Even to down the road episodes where maybe we get projects that are a little bit above your pay grade and your time to bring in a contractor for them. And we can talk tips on when you do hire a contractor, because that can be some murky waters if you're not knowing what you're doing. Kind of what to look for, things like that. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Help bring the expertise that we have in store on the air, and help the listeners with taking on those little projects and problems in their lives.
Sure. I mean, that's where, you have a lot of experience, because, contractors come to you for their material and stuff.
Absolutely.
So you kind of good feel of what contractors are good at what they do, and ones that maybe you ought to steer clear of. So.
Absolutely. And we know the process and have a pretty good handle on how the laws work, and can give you a little advice on finding the right pro to help with your next improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. But today, what we're talking about, very timely, because it rained the one day, but today we're talking about sprinkler systems. But it is that time. You're going to be watering. I know planting and all that it's starting to. If you have your gardens or your grasses and stuff. I know some grasses you're probably going to be about a month out before you start doing that stuff. But now's the time if you've ever been talking about putting in a sprinkler system, or if you have one and like half the heads are broke off and don't work or whatever because you hit them with the lawnmower because they weren't put in right, or I don't know, the dog found it was a play toy. I mean, there's 100 different reasons those things
backed
break.
over it. If there's one, there's 10. So.
Yeah. So I know if you're like me, I'm looking at that. I'm like, oh man, I got to call a guy and get that fixed. And be honest, you could probably fix it for a couple bucks and maybe a half hour's worth of work.
Yep, sprinklers are a really easy repair. It is plumbing technically, but it's far less intimidating than the plumbing in the house. I've always said that I'm not a plumber. I don't do plumbing work. I can do a lot of things personally.
Right.
But I'm of the opinion that for me, the best plumbing tool ever invented was a telephone.
Well, that's pretty much the story of my life for everything.
That's totally okay. There is no shame in that. But sprinklers are one of those things that even I will take on, even though I don't do plumbing, because it's fairly simple. There's not a lot of moving parts, and even if it leaks a little bit, it doesn't actually hurt anything.
Well, that's the idea.
So it's definitely a great first project if you're a beginning do-it-yourselfer, or if you're an experienced do-it-yourselfer who's always avoided plumbing. Start by taking on a little sprinkler repair, or even installing your own system. It's pretty unintimidating once you get into it.
And I'm thinking, if you're installing it, I would think there's got to be, because obviously you're digging a lot of trenches and you're deciding where you want, and then I guess the trick comes towards the end on the type of head you put on the direction you want the water to go, and things like that. So to me, that seems like it could be a little tricky if you have no idea what you're doing, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, yes, if you were all on your own, I would completely agree. If you're talking about installing a new system, there's a couple of tips I would really point you to. The first one is rent a trencher. I did a little research. We don't rent equipment, but you can rent a trencher in Roswell for $200 for a day.
Okay.
It will be the best $200 you've ever spent. I've put a couple of systems in over the years.
Probably less money at the chiropractor, too.
True story, yes. Yeah, you'll wear $200 worth of gloves out digging it by hand. So it's definitely money well spent, and you'll end up with a far better system.
Gotcha.
The other thing I would really encourage is, even if you're going to install it yourself, I'd recommend hiring a plumber for one part of the project.
Okay.
That is installing a backflow preventer.
Okay.
The plumbing code requires that you have a backflow preventer between your sprinkler system valves and your water supply, which means that, God forbid, a little something gets in through one of those sprinkler heads, it can't flow back into the city water supply and end up in your home.
Gotcha. Okay.
Those always should be installed by a plumber, and most plumbers will come out and do just that installation for a reasonable cost, and then you can take on everything from there.
Gotcha.
The last tip I would really, really push you to, and this really goes to what you were talking about with it being a little intimidating, figuring out the whole process. Rainbird, who is our primary supplier for sprinkler heads and parts and is the industry leader not only in residential sprinklers but also in lawn maintenance systems for commercial applications, golf courses, sports fields, that sort of thing, offers a sprinkler system design service. They actually, if you come to the store or go to their website, you can fill out one of their handy little draw your properties and tell them a little bit about your lawn.
Okay.
And they will actually send back a plan of the design with...
So it's like a do-it-yourself blueprint where they...
Exactly. And what kind of heads you need.
Okay.
Because that's really the trickiest thing. You come into our store, I've got 8 feet of heads, just sprinkler heads.
Wow.
And if you don't know exactly what each one does, it's a little intimidating. It's
Sure.
a little intimidating even for us.
Sure.
And so it really helps to have that professional advice from an industry leader like Rainbird to make sure that you get what's going to do the best job for you.
So really, before you even one shovel hits or one trencher hits, you need to kind of do this. That's probably one of the first steps I'm guessing you want to do is so that way you have the map, and then you can purchase exactly what you need, get everything you need the first time rather than making 12 trips.
Exactly.
Because you got the wrong thing the first 12 times.
Exactly. Yeah, you can bring that design in once Rainbird has done it to either of our stores, and we'll put a whole package of materials together for you, make sure you have everything you need except the ambition and the trencher, and let you loose on it.
Good deal. Let me ask you real quick, with a project like this, if you're installing, permits, things like that with the city, is that stuff you need to take care of too, or is this one of those projects that you can kind of do without that kind of?
The only portion that may require a permit is that backflow preventer that I was mentioning, because you are tying into a potable water line.
Okay.
The rest of it is not, because it's not inside of a home, so there's no building permit required.
Okay.
Or anything like that, which is really nice. It's another reason it makes it a pretty low barrier to entry for a first-time DIYer.
Okay, I just want to make sure that way you don't start doing all this and somebody rolls in and, what are you doing? Where's your permit?
Always want to avoid that. We love the building inspectors, except when we're not expecting to see them.
Right, exactly. So, okay, well, let's talk about the repair side of things. For folks that do have these sprinkler systems, and like you said, they fire it up the first time and like half the heads are either gone or broken half and water's shooting in all kinds of different places.
Well, the first trick to that is do a spring checkup.
Okay.
Before you ever, and this is a perfect time of year, go out when you've got time on a Saturday, when you're not rushing off to work, turn the system on and cycle it through each section, because most sprinkler systems, at least in homes of any size, have 2 or more sections or portions of their schedule.
Okay.
You want to cycle through each one of those and look for a couple of signs. The really clear one is water spraying straight up in the air. It probably indicates a problem of some sort. But you want to walk around and look for puddles of water where there shouldn't be puddles of water. That could mean that you need to adjust a head, or you may have a leak in a head that's not a serious leak, so the sprinkler's still working, but it's spraying backwards or leaking a little out the side.
Okay.
The other thing to really look for, especially if you have a driveway near your lawn that may have gotten driven over, and I experienced this once when I was a kid at my parents' house. look for areas where the turf and the soil is actually being pushed up. It almost looks like a pillow.
Okay.
And when you walk on it, it feels like you're walking on a waterbed.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of cool until you realize that you have a crushed water line that has to be dug out.
Sure.
And that's definitely something to look out for. And especially since we had such a hard winter, there's also the potential that you may have some freeze damage that will cause the same things. Then you can identify what your problems are. Come down to the store, tell us, hey, I've got this problem, and this problem. We can get you the parts you need, whether you need whole nozzles or whole heads, I should say, or whether you just need to replace just the nozzle portion. Most sprinklers have a replaceable nozzle, and if this is all that's broken, this is like $2, and this is $12.
Okay.
I would highly recommend replacing the $2 part, not the $12 part.
And it's less work, too, to replace
It's significantly less work. Now, this doesn't have to be dug up to be replaced.
Right. Now, how does, because we have pretty hard water here, and I imagine a lot of people probably have some kind of RO unit or something for their inside the house or drinking water, but I imagine there's probably not a lot for your outside water.
No, that's right. And you don't want to ever use RO or softened water to water your lawn.
Yeah.
If you're installing a new system, that water should come off off of your system with a T before it gets to that water softener, because water softeners are great for us. They're good for our skin, good for the taste of our water, but they're absolutely horrible for our lawns because they put a lot of salt into it.
Gotcha.
It will kill your lawn if you water it with softened water.
It's a good tip. Don't do that.
I've seen that mistake a couple of times. As a result, you are going to be watering with hard water.
Sure, which means calcium and all the kinds of buildups are going to get and eventually probably clog some of those nozzles there. Is it a lot of those are just cleaning will fix them, or generally do you have to replace them when they get
typically you can clean them, and as part of that regular cycle of maintenance, I recommend going ahead and taking those nozzles off, and each one of those nozzles has a little filter basket underneath it.
Okay.
And you can take this out and either put them all in a bucket, take them in the house and rinse them under a sink, or take a little water and a toothbrush with you out there and do them individually, and you'll knock a lot of junk out of these. Sand, calcium buildup, dirt and dust gets down in them, grass clippings get down inside of these, and it will really impact the performance of your sprinkler system.
Okay.
These do get dirty enough that occasionally they need to be replaced, and if you're going to replace those, go ahead and replace the nozzles because they come together.
Gotcha.
And typically they wear at similar rates. As long as you clean them every year or two or even 3, the water buildup's not too bad because you're not keeping water in it. Sprinkler systems actually sit dry whenever they're not actually running.
Okay.
So as a result, they tend to not have too much buildup.
Okay, gotcha. So and the part all this we're just talking about here, I know I'm one of them, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people that like, wait a minute, maintenance on a sprinkler, I just turn it on. And so if you maybe moved into this house that already had the sprinkler system, and if you've lived in it a couple of years and you've never done anything, probably before you start up here, you sit down and take care of some of this, because chances are if it hasn't been maintained, and especially a few years, you're more likely there is some issues going on.
You may have some small issues. The other thing it really gives you an opportunity to do is to look at where your sprinklers are spraying. When I came in, Jeffrey was talking about the fact that his apartment complex appears to be more concerned with washing their sidewalks than actually watering their grass.
Right.
That's definitely something you want to fix, and if it's happening at your house, because all you're doing is wasting water, and ultimately you will hurt the concrete because it's not designed to be wet like that constantly.
Sure.
So you're just wasting water and getting nothing for it.
That's right. You're just paying the city higher water bill.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk while we're talking about that timers and things. That's something that especially if you put it in yourself, you're going to want to put that timer in. I'm thinking. And then again, I could be wrong. Like if you buy a house, I imagine there's a sprinkler system installed. There's probably been a timer of some kind put on that thing, but maybe not always.
Pretty consistently, almost all new installations, whether it's a new construction home or an existing home, they almost always install a timer system on it. If you're installing a new system, I would absolutely recommend a timer. It's a fairly small investment in the grand scheme of things, and it allows you to set it up on a schedule and have it run. My system runs at my home Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, I believe, and I run mine early in the morning.
Sure.
You always want to run early morning or late evening. I'd actually recommend in the morning, because if you run it in the evening, that water sits on there, and ultimately it's a good way to get fungus.
Okay.
Because the lawn stays wet. If you water in the morning, what's going to soaks in, and then when the sun comes up on a day other than a day like today,
right,
it dries that lawn out, which is good. Those lawns are designed to get wet and then get dry.
Okay.
And so I would really recommend that. The other thing I'd really recommend that kind of relates to the control systems and the timers is the valves. Valve maintenance is one of the biggest things that people are intimidated by. Replacing heads are easy. Valves are a little more complicated. And they're actually not so much complicated as it is they're just difficult to work on. You've got a valve box that's got a couple of 3 valves in it. You've got to work down that box. So one of the things I really always advise people, if you're putting in a new system or if you're having to go in and replace a bunch of valves, is build your valve system on what's called a union. So a union is a PVC pipe connection that comes apart on purpose.
Okay.
So you unscrew it like this, and it allows you to separate it. Now, if you build one of these on either side of your valves, whenever you have a problem, instead of having to get on your hands and knees in a muddy 12-inch wide valve box, you unscrew all of your unions, lift that whole valve assembly up out of there, and go put it on the tailgate of the truck or the workbench and go work on it at your leisure, and then reinstall it in a working condition. That's a really handy thing to do.
Sure.
The unions are not inexpensive. They're a few dollars a piece, and you might need 5 or 6, but the first time you use that, you'll be really glad you spent the money.
I would imagine that. And that's probably one of those things that, like, we talk about what separates amateurs from pros and doing things. That's probably one of those things. It's like the people that do this and are experienced at it, that's the stuff they set up because they want to make it operator and mechanic friendly, basically.
Absolutely. Ergonomics matter when you're doing things like this. Plumbing especially, the actual task is never that complicated. It's where you have to work. Nobody ever puts plumbing anywhere convenient. It's always in a hole, behind a wall, underneath the sink. And so there's a lot of little tricks and techniques that you learn over time that make those tasks a lot simpler.
Absolutely.
And that's a good example of one.
Yeah, definitely. So, now, I should remind folks, if you're listening in the radio or driving your car and hearing this, this is, I always talk about go watch the morning show on our website at roswellstalkfm.com, and you can always go back and watch the archive shows after 10 o'clock. If you're just listening to this segment, I encourage you later, and you're really, thinking about doing some sprinkler stuff, go back to our website after the show today when you get home from work or whatever, this weekend. Go back and rewatch this segment because Justin's kind of giving us visuals of some of the different parts and things that you can use here and how to use those. So if you're just hearing this on the radio, check out our video. I'm trying to fight a sneeze, sorry. Check out our video. That way you can get a feel of that. Also, you guys have a YouTube setup channel where you can kind of watch some of these videos.
We do.
Steer folks on how they can get to that.
Yeah, so it's youtube.com/Builders Do It Center. We don't have a ton of content on there, but we're going to be including cross-posting these recordings to that channel. And then we're also going to be, it's a place where we're going to share videos from our vendors and some video content that we produce. I tell people that the 2 greatest technological advances to help the home improvement industry, number 1 is YouTube, because anybody can learn how to do anything, given enough time. And there's lots of good advice. There's some bad advice on YouTube, but there's lots of good advice.
Sure.
I would recommend steering towards known bloggers, manufacturers of home improvement products, not, Bob that on Sundays he does hair care, and on Tuesdays he does home improvement.
You can fix it with a toaster and a curling iron.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you hear things like that, go find a different channel. But the other thing that I always tell people that's really handy, and it really goes back to sprinkler repair, is the smartphone. The picture phone, the ability to take pictures on your phone, has absolutely changed our industry. Instead of somebody coming in and going, I got this part, and it has a left-hand turn on it, and you're going, oh, God, I don't have a clue what these people are talking about. They walk in and they go, I want one of these, and it's on their iPhone.
Right.
And you go, absolutely, we're going to go to aisle 3 and get that for you.
Sure.
Take pictures. If you're coming in the store and you need to replace a part, take 6 pictures. It makes your life easier. It's going to make our life a lot easier.
And I imagine, especially if it's an unusual part, would it be a good idea to take maybe multiple angles of the picture, even if there's a serial number or something?
Serial numbers are amazing, old labels, and take pictures of where things go.
Okay.
If you took a part out of something, take a photo of where you took it out of. Context really helps, because sometimes we go, okay, I think I know what that is, but I don't know what it goes in.
Gotcha.
So more information is better. Pictures are cheap.
Sure.
We love it when people walk in with their phones or their iPads and they go, okay, I got this, and this that I need. And it becomes really, really helpful for us to have more information to help them get on with their project.
And it saves the customer the multiple trips, because, that's growing up, that was, Dad would do some project or whatever, and rarely did he get everything right or everything he needed trip 1.
Well, that's pretty rare anyways. Even with the advent of the picture phone, I have to tell you, I'm a professional. I've been doing this since I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
I pretty much have to take 2 or 3 trips. Most times I have a project. So it's about getting those trips limited to a reasonable number instead of like 7.
Right.
If you can go from 7 trips to 2 trips, I'd call that a pretty successful change.
Sure.
But yeah, it definitely makes it a lot easier by having more information up front.
Okay. Real quick to, I know I'm jumping back and forth, but when you talk about repair and installing of sprinkler systems, as far as tools go, what are your bare minimums? What should you have tool-wise?
We got kind of a short list of what we recommend. Number one, of course, a small shovel. A couple of 5-gallon buckets are really handy. Another one that's kind of a weird thing is a small cup.
Okay.
A little plastic cup just to be able to reach down into a hole and scoop out a little bit of dirt. Few other things. PVC cutters are very helpful. It's basically a set of pliers that cut PVC rather than having to use a hacksaw.
Okay.
I really recommend them in any kind of PVC or pipe cutting, plastic pipe cutting application. A couple of rags are very handy because you want to be cleaning connections. Anytime you're putting pipe together, it's going to be wet, it's going to be dirty. You want to be cleaning those connections.
Okay.
Channel lock pliers. One that's really handy is what's called a sprinkler head clamp. Looks like a pair of needle nose pliers, but it's spring loaded.
Okay.
And what it allows you to do is clamp the shaft of the sprinkler to keep the head above ground rather than trying to hold that with one hand while it's wet while you're taking that shaft off. You can put that clamp on it, work on what you need to, go back to it, and it's still
Kind of like your surgeon's assistant there a little bit.
Very similar. And then, other than that, it's kind of goes down to digging tools.
Gotcha.
Trencher, big shovel, a trench cleaning shovel. The only other thing I might recommend would be a cable saw, which is essentially a piece of wire rope or cable that you can reach down in a hole, run it underneath a piece of pipe that's already there, and cut it out.
Okay.
Which is really handy if you're doing a repair and can't get underneath or against the side of a piece of concrete. Lots of times you'll have a sidewalk and a piece of pipe that's up against that. It's really hard to get a saw or even a PVC cutter in there. If you have a cable saw, you can fish that 1/16 of an inch cable back through there and cut that pipe off really efficiently.
Unfortunately, PVC is not that difficult to cut through, so it's pretty easy to cut through with something like that.
It's all about access. If you can get to it, it's pretty simple to cut.
Yeah.
So
as long as you're not, I don't know if you try to cut down a tree with something like that, but it's PVC.
I wouldn't recommend it. No, PVC, you're fine. Anything other than that, it may be a little out of its league.
Sure.
So yeah.
Very good. So it's not that hard if you get the right tools and just and study on it. Like you said, ask questions, go swing by the builders, do it. If you've got any questions on, look, it's like, all right, here's what I got going on. Your staff will definitely help them walk it through every step of that process there, or at least point you in the right direction of where to look.
Absolutely. And if we don't know the answer to your question, we'll find it.
Yeah.
I always tell my people that I don't know is not a good answer, but it's half of a good answer, which is I don't know, but I'll find out.
Right.
There's a ton of information out there, and we can really help guide you through finding the right information if it's a question that we don't already know the answer to.
Very good. Of course, swing by. Come by the Builders Do It Center on South Main. You can't miss it.
Main and Alameda.
You're going, I always say if you're going towards the base, you'll see the big building there on your right.
Big warm red building. You can't miss us.
Yeah. Is there anything you wanted to cover we skipped or got sidetracked?
Sprinkler wise, the only other little thing I had is I wanted to kind of pitch on a product a little bit.
Yeah.
Called Orbit's PVC lock. So this is a system we just took on carrying not long ago. The traditional way of joining PVC pipe has been gluing it into a fitting, or if it was threaded, threading it into a fitting. Mm-hmm. The snap lock's really nice for sprinkler systems. You can't use it for anything else. And instead of having a glue system, it's got a lock system, very similar to Shark Bite, which is used for PEX fittings.
Okay.
You basically just slide it into the end of the fitting, and it's got a little set of teeth and a ring that grab it.
So it's like a self-clamping kind of.
Exactly. You don't have to glue anything. You just shove it till it doesn't go anymore. The best thing they have is a product called a flex coupling. So imagine 2 PVC couplings joined by a piece of flexible pipe.
Okay.
For those of you that are watching online, you can see the things you can do with this. This is really great for anything weird.
Sure.
I have a couple of these at my house all the time for sprinkler repairs because you never quite know what you're going to find. If you got a hole and you can't get into it, this will work really well. If you have a sprinkler head that's in the wrong location, so it's sitting 6 inches to the left of where it's supposed to be, you can put one of these on as your nipple and kink it,
bend it,
hold it in place while you bury it, and then it allows you to shift that.
That way you don't have to create some weird elbow concoction to do that.
Exactly.
That's a great handy.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like you talked about the locks on those, are they can they be removed once you like? So you need to unlock it. Is it something
They cannot with the Orbit's lock system. That's
Gotcha.
one of the few drawbacks of it, and it's only approved for use on cold water sprinkler systems. You
Gotcha.
can't use it in your house for running supply lines or anything like that.
Gotcha.
So yeah, if you mess up and put it in the wrong place, you can cut it off and put a new one on.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, it's one of the few things I don't like about that system.
Well, but you'd be doing that anyway if you had to glue it. So
Yeah, exactly. So there's no downside. You just don't have the benefit of being able to get it apart.
Yep. Very good.
Unfortunately.
And again, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, swing by the Builders Do It Center here in Roswell and ask, and the staff will point you in the right direction.
Absolutely. Our team has got lots of experience, and if there's any question that we can't answer, we will find the answer for you before we leave.
Very good.
So,
Give out the phone number and everything. People just want to call.
sure. Our Roswell Stores phone number is 575-622-7841, and our Artesia Stores number is 575-746-3576.
Very good. Do y'all do the social media and all that? Do y'all got Facebook
We do.
page
We have a
and all?
Facebook page. We're real active on Facebook. We also have a Twitter and a Pinterest page, although we're probably not as active as we should be. But Facebook is a great place to go for any news from builders.
Very good.
So one thing I did want to mention
Sure.
before we go is next Saturday, April 9th, we're actually having our spring cleaning sale. So this is our opportunity to get rid of some product that we've had for a little while. It's a great opportunity for you to save money on a few things. You know, we're doing a buy one, get one sale on all Valspar paint products. So buy 5 gallons, get 5 gallons free. Buy a gallon, get a gallon free. If you're thinking about spring painting,
Okay.
now's the time to do it. That's the best deal you'll
Yeah.
find anywhere all year. We're doing some clearance windows, cabinets, and flooring, some product that we need to get rid of, as well as doing 50% off select power tools.
Okay.
These are items that are last year's model. You know, power tools are a lot like electronics. Their technology is always improving, and so we want to make sure that we're getting rid of the older product, even though it's perfectly good and,
Sure.
and will do the job just fine, so that we can have that new
It's
improved
like in the new
product.
model cars at the dealerships, kind of
New
thing.
model cars, new model phones or computers. It's very similar. So that's Saturday the 9th from 9 to 3.
Okay.
And we're actually also going to have your sister station, Fiero 1061 out there is doing a remote, going to be cooking some hot dogs, I think, from Super Meat Mart.
They're
and
big, giant,
Pepsi's
fat
giving
hot
away.
dogs, yeah.
Yeah,
They're
I've been told they're fantastic. I'm kind of looking forward to that.
They're big. They put a hurting on the bun.
That's an impressive hot dog. So I believe we're also going to have a monster truck out there.
Yeah,
so
I think it's Bounty Hunters. That's the one, if I remember. 'Cause
I hope so.
Yeah,
So
they're-
come out and...
Yeah, they got the monster truck show at the fairgrounds next Saturday night, and they're going to be basically doing an appearance, so you can bring the kids or the big kids that have beards and everything can go.
No judgment. No judgment. Whatever makes you happy.
Can go and check out the monster truck, and then of course go on there and stock up on power tools and the spring clearance items.
Absolutely. Yeah. Come see us, and we'll be out in the parking lot and having
It's like
a good
man
time.
paradise, actually. Now that I think about it, it's like sale on tools and equipment and a monster truck
Yeah, exactly.
and
Yeah.
giant hot dogs.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
it
much man
really,
paradise.
you couldn't ask for a whole lot more.
Very good. So that's 1 week from tomorrow, next Saturday. Come out and be a part of that. And then, of course, if you've got any questions or if you want to get a jump and start working on those sprinkler systems, or if you've got one already in place, like you said, first thing you do is you need to do a test, run some checks on it, make sure everything's good to go, and then probably swing by Builders Do It Center because you're going to find a few things that need to be probably maintenance or something needs to be worked on.
Absolutely. Yeah, that ounce of maintenance is worth the pound of cure. So.
That's right. Especially if you just realized you need to do maintenance on those.
Yes.
Like, you mean they just don't come on? Okay.
Yeah, most things aren't that way. It's not set it and forget it, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Justin, appreciate it, and look forward to having you each month here. And like I said, if something comes up between now and then, you want to come by and talk about it, we'd love to have you.
Absolutely. Like, no, we're glad to do it, and if there's anything we can do for the listeners, please feel free to contact us at the stores or through buildersdoitcenter.com, and we're here to help.
All right. We're going to get Jeffrey get some home project listed. Maybe we can get help
Yeah,
on those.
perfect.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.